All right, it's finally here. We just got the Diablo 4 Season 4 Loot Reborn official blog post. So Loot Reborn is the name of the season. All right, so here we go. Galvanize your legend in Season 4 Loot Reborn. They have called it Loot Reborn before. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called on the PTR. I had thought that that was just the name for the PTR because we were testing the loot changes, but it seems like that is the entire season theme. So maybe if they had something else in mind at one point that got pushed backwards for the Loot 2.0. So let's see if we get anything new here. The forges burn with renewed vigor, stoked by braziers to hone the steel of Sanctuary's finest. Across the land, Hell's expanded legions gather and multiply, marshaling their strength to ambush wanderers that fall prey to the Helltide. Fresh from our first PTR in Diablo 4 Season 4, Loot Reborn begins on May 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Use the Itemization overhaul on new systems, tempering and masterworking to change a noteworthy blade into a force to be feared. Across all world tiers, Helltide is reborn. Slay monstrosities to fill your threat meter, marking you as prey for the Hellborn. Prepare to fight side by side with the Iron Wolves. So that's what was leaked. During the PTR, people kept seeing reputation gains with the Iron Wolves, so people thought this was going to be Season of the Iron Wolves or something along those lines. A seasoned mercenary company of brethren aiming to quell the demons. Okay, so somehow Iron Wolves, which I believe were in Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, maybe Diablo 1. I didn't really play much Diablo 1. All right, let's keep going. Itemization Reforged, Masterworking, Tempering, and more. We know about that. Helltide Reborn, we know about that. And Dariel joins the fray, and Tormented echoes. We saw that on the PTR. Your greatest challenge, the Pit of Artificers. Yep, we saw that on the PTR. Fight with the Iron Wolves. So that'll be interesting. Season Journey, Fabled Threads from Tajal's shop. That's just microtransactions. Community guides for Season 4. Okay, so they probably going to link to max roll and stuff like that. All right, so let's see. What do we got? Seasons within Diablo 4 bear their mark on Sanctuary in the seasonal realm, unearthing new quests and fresh mechanics to explore and master. Season 4 Loot Reborn takes on a new theme, overhauling many core game systems to refresh how items are earned, how they function, and how they improve as you level through world tiers during the season. Unlike previous seasonal themes that affect only the seasonal realm, with Season 4 Loot Reborn, these itemization changes persist beyond the seasonal realm and affect the eternal realm as well. Right, because this is a major shift, basically changing the itemization in the entire game. So obviously that's going to take place on the Eternal Realm as well. Read on to learn how itemization will change the way you loot and reap your way across all of Diablo 4. All updates to our new items, classes, and skills will be available in our Season 4 patch notes, which will be available here following our developer update livestream on May 2nd. General item updates. One of our several goals for the itemization changes is to make it easier to understand which items are upgrades when they drop. We reduced the number of affixes on items down to 3 on legendary items and 2 on rare items, and made these affixes more effective. Instead of seeing an affix that relies on conditional values like plus 10% damage on non-injured elites, you'll see affixes such as base increases to your movement speed, max life, or single ranks of a core skill. Dropped items are now simpler to evaluate, and we've moved their complexity and customization to our new crafting systems, tempering and masterworking, which we'll describe in more detail below. We've also increased the overall values of these affixes, so they should feel more powerful. Okay, so this screenshot shows a greater affix, which that can just drop like that. And then this is with tempering and masterworking. Oh, okay. They have a little star symbol now. I don't think that was on PTR. Maybe it was. By making items more individually impactful, we've significantly decreased the number of items that drop when slaying monsters. The goal here is to spend more time obliterating and less time sorting through the many items that drop. Thank you so much. The result is that fewer items will drop overall, but those items will be more likely to be valued. To compensate and stay on the par with the norm, materials gained from salvaging and crafting have been adjusted to match this change. Also, Forgotten Souls can now be earned from Whisper bounties and are a rare drop from all elites. The gold cost to reroll items while enchanting now has a maximum, and we've cut down on materials needed to perform all activities when at the blacksmith. Additionally, which world tier you play in will directly affect the rarity of the items you earn. Sacred items or higher will only drop in World Tier 3, and only ancestral items will appear in World Tier 4. Similarly, legendary items dropped from enemies over level 95 will always have a value of 925. However, keep an eye out for uniques. Some have a chance to appear starting in World Tier 1 and 2. All uniques have a chance to drop starting in World Tier 3, and Uber uniques can start appearing once you're killing monsters. that are level 55 at max item power level. I feel like that's worded really strangely. But yeah, so monster level 55. So basically, as soon as you're in World Tier 3, you can start getting Uber Uniques, and they will always be 925s. Imagine getting a Grandfather or a Shaco at like level 40 something. That'd be wild. Anyways, Codex of Power updates. Extracting aspects from legendary items now stores them in your Codex of Power to be used indefinitely. Instead of taking up space in your inventory, the Codex of Power is a library that stores your most powerful extracted version of that aspect, which can be used as many times as you want. I think this is single-handedly one of the biggest changes to the game, because we're not going to have to worry about juggling aspects. We're not going to have to worry about keeping a ton of items in our stash just in case. If we don't need something, we can just salvage it now. And if it had an upgrade for a power, we get that power permanently. Like, one thing that I love about this is in the past, let's say I was building a ball lightning sorcerer, I would keep an eye out for, all the aspects that are related to that build. But if they weren't for that build, I would stash a couple here and there, but I wasn't really focused on them. Now, if I'm salvaging ice shards legendaries, if I decided to switch to ice shards later in the season, I will have already extracted those powers and just be ready to go. So I might have to re-roll a couple pieces of my gear. If crit is better than attack speed or whatever you need for whatever build you're switching to, you might have to change a couple things in that regard, but you should have the powers that you need once you get a little deeper into the season. The Codex of Power displays all available aspects so you can spend more time seeking the highest aspect rolls possible. Once the aspect with the maximum potential is extracted, a specific border indicates the aspect has been completed. Aspects can now be favorited within the Codex of Power, and a tooltip will denote whether you already have that aspect equipped when searching within the Codex. Please note that in the seasonal realm, when your season ends, your Codex of Power will reset and retain those learned affixes for the Eternal realm. So, moves from seasonal to Eternal, unlocking those on the Eternal. So, after a couple of seasons, we're probably going to have everything on the Eternal realm. If you already have the same aspect learned in the Eternal realm, the Codex of Power will keep the higher of the two. Okay, that's great. Tempering. Sharpen your steel and make it sing. As you find and learn tempering manuals, blacksmiths across Sanctuary will be able to use these manuals of craftsmanship to shape the qualities of your equipment. Tempering allows you to add potent affixes to your items. Crafting manuals can be found as a regular item throughout the game. Once learned, they can be used as many times as desired, like the new Codex of Power changes. Each crafting manual contains a small number of affixes and typically correspond to 6 different categories: weapons, offensive, defensive, mobility, utility, and resource. Simply head to the blacksmith to temper your item and add one of the available affixes, greatly reducing the time it takes to ensure your weapon has the affix you desire. Note that ancestral items can have 2 tempered affixes from different categories, but not 2 from the same category. Remember, the tempering durability indicates how many times you can temper an item. Even the most battle-honed blades can lose their edge. So this is the part that, technically speaking, you could brick one of your items if you don't get the roll that you want. You can still use it and hope to get another item to try to get the roll that you want later, but in the meantime, you will be stuck with what you have. The manuals you learn on the seasonal realm last until the end of the season, and manuals learned on the eternal realm will be known permanently. Okay. Masterworking. Refine your weapon to untold prowess. Using the rarest of materials found within the deepest mines and caverns, improve your weapons to the absolute pinnacle of their potential. Masterworking is an endgame crafting system using materials earned from the pit of artificers to upgrade your weapons. Masterworking improves the overall strength of all of your affixes on a weapon, and at every 4th tier, 4, 8, 12, massively upgrades one of the equipped affixes. The affix that receives the bonus will turn blue. If the same affix is improved again, it'll change to yellow, and in rare cases, it'll turn orange if improved a 3rd time. So you can hit the same affix all 3 times if you get incredibly lucky. If you hit the max level of masterworking on a given weapon and you're unsatisfied with the improvements of the weapon, you can reset and begin the process again. Greater affixes. Appearing only on ancestral, legendary, and unique items, greater affixes are 1.5 times more powerful than the normal version of that affix. Items with greater affixes drop with a distinct audio cue, alerting you to their presence, and have a unique icon both in the world and within your inventory. Each affix on an item has a chance to be a greater affix in World Tier 3 and 4. You cannot enchant an affix into a greater affix. Their awesome power may only be discovered. So that's right, that little star symbol that I saw earlier, right here. So that star symbol on the PTR, it was indicated by Roman numerals. So you'd see like a 1, a 2, a 3, depending on how many rolled. So I'm curious if we'll get like 2 stars, 3 stars. Okay, they don't talk about that here. Gems. Gems are simpler, streamlined, and more effective across your character's journey. Crude gems have been removed, and crafting levels have been shifted back. Normal gems are available at 51, Flawless at 71, and Royal at 91. So we don't get gems now until level 51. Interesting. Okay. Diamonds have had their all resistance values increased. Topaz now provide increases to intelligence, and sapphires increases to willpower. Amethyst increases your strength, and emeralds now provide bonus dexterity. Helltide Reborn. The legions of the burning hells regroup to coordinate a most formidable display of force in a Helltide Reborn. Inspired by the vampiric blood harvest in Season of Blood, your ferocity in combat draws the attention of increasingly dangerous foes. Only the strongest and most well-prepared can survive this potent onslaught. Unless otherwise noted, these Helltide changes affect both Eternal and Seasonal realms and persist beyond the end of Season 4, Loot Reborn. Threat levels and becoming Hellmarked. As you cleave your way through Helltide, you now generate Threat. Threat is earned based on the difficulty of the monsters you slay and how often you're opening torture gifts within Helltide. There are 3 threat levels in total, with each level increasing the danger and frequency of ambushes. Once you hit level 3, you will become Hellmarked. When you've been Hellmarked, you'll be besieged by a frenzy of densely packed monsters. If you make it out alive, a Hellborn will come for you, one of Sanctuary's most formidable fallen warriors, now an immensely powerful agent of Hell. The Hellborn can embody one of the classes in Diablo 4. Your threat level resets once the Hellborn ambush has been activated, or if you succumb to the overwhelming forces of Hell and perish. Unholy Blasphemy, Accursed Ritual. At a scene of shocking gore, the Accursed Ritual is the ultimate testament to the disturbing lengths these manic cultists will go to appease their dark desires. It is here where you can begin the Accursed Ritual. Baneful Hearts can be earned by opening tortured gifts throughout Helltide and by defeating Hellborn enemies. Deposit 3 Baneful Hearts to begin the ritual, which will commence with a swarm of demonic enemies. This ambush will end with the arrival of the formidable Blood Maiden, an immensely powerful demon who offers great reward upon her death. So that sounds like both the events that we saw in Season 2 in the Blood Harvest, and then also Season 3 when we spawn, I don't remember what their names were, the big dudes that we spawned in the world. Anyways. Contributing any Baneful Hearts to initiate this dark ritual will grant you increased rewards as a contribution bonus, but sacrificing more Baneful Hearts will yield you further individual rewards. Helltides in World Tier 1 and 2. To get your feet warmed up to this awesome threat of Helltide earlier on your character's journey, Helltide is now available in World Tier 1 and 2. The overall monster density will be suited relative to those world tiers, and no roaming bosses or lethal meteors will be present. Okay, so it's a little bit more of a forgiving Helltide, but we can do it starting from level 1 if we choose to. Additional hellish changes, and we did see this leaked. We saw this data mined, and I want to say at least one person found it on the PTR. For the Wanderer that want to push the limits of Helltide, an exceptionally valuable new elixir called Profane Mindcage is available to up the ante. Consuming a Profane Mindcage increases the level of Helltide monsters by 10 and boosts the Cinder drop rates. These are a guaranteed drop after killing Hellborn. You will see diminishing returns on boosted monster levels closer to level cap. Keep progressing in world tiers to retain the same benefits from this potent elixir. The Profane Mindcage will only last until the end of Season 4 Loot Reborn. Now what I'm curious is, can we get multiple of these and stack them to make them even more difficult and even more better rewards? I don't know. We'll see if they talk about that. It doesn't say anything yet. Fresh demonic events have been added to Helltide, including new encounters with the fabled Iron Wolves. Stay vigilant for these encounters of demonic treachery. As a recent change since our PTR for Season 4, Loot Reborn, Doomsayers no longer drop chests of Doomsaying. Instead, they now drop the equivalent rewards that a chest of Doomsaying would have granted on death, entirely removing the Cinder cost it previously held. Your greatest challenge, the Pit of Artificers. So this is basically Greater Rifts from Diablo 3. There are rumors that there are strange varieties of ore deep within the network of dungeons crisscrossing the north of Sanctuary, perfect for crafting exceptionally made armor using secret Herodric techniques. However, the horrors that lay in wait for intrepid wanderers seeking to unearth these riches are unspeakably terrible. Upon entering World Tier 4, you'll now receive a priority quest to complete a Tier 46 Nightmare Dungeon. I feel like 46 is such a random number. Why not 40? Why not 45? Why not 50? 46. I'm sure there's a reason, but anyways. Upon completion, you'll begin to collect rune shards by playing through different endgame activities. They'll appear when you encounter Helltide chests, world bosses, Legion events, nightmare dungeons, and whisper bounties. This is incentivizing us to pretty much do all the content in the game, which I like. Collect rune shards to activate the Obelisk in Saragar, allowing you to descend into the beckoning depths of the pit. Your task is to slay enough monsters before your 10-minute time limit runs out to summon a final boss. Each player death removes time from the clock. The first death removes 30 seconds, second death removes 60, and the third and subsequent deaths will remove 90 seconds, so you really don't want to die too many times. After enough monsters are slain, a portal materializes, transporting you to the boss's arena. Slay the boss before the timer expires to earn coveted Masterworking materials, and the next brutal tier of the pit. If you can manage to kill the boss with time left on the clock, the benefit increases. With 4 to 6 minutes to spare, you skip a level and unlock an additional tier of the pit. Killing the boss with 6 or more minutes to spare grants you 2 additional tier unlocks. The pit has 200 total levels of difficulty to try to conquer, if you dare to face the challenge. The pit can be entered in groups of up to 4 players, with the player who spends the rune shards to open the pit earning the lion's share of the materials. Only the player who opened the pit has a chance to receive tantalizing Stygian stones for summoning Tormented Echoes, which is level 200 variants of the summonable bosses found in Diablo 4. The further you descend into the levels of the pit, the more frequent these Stygian stones will appear. Andariel joins the fray and Tormented Echoes. The Maiden of Anguish has returned in all her tormented glory. She joins the boss ladder at the same tier as her brother Duriel, with the same uber-unique drop rate. With a mix of shadow, fire, lightning, and her iconic poison attack, Andariel stands ready to face all who dare fathom to bring about her demise. Found east of Tesseract in Hanged Man's Halls, you need summoning materials from both Lord Zir and Beast in the Ice to fight Andariel. Tormented Echoes. All summonable bosses are now available at level 200 as Tormented Echoes. Summonable with their regular summon materials alongside Stygian stones, which can be found deep within the pit, these bosses cost more to summon but drop far more rewards. To summon a Tormented Echo, simply go to their typical summon location and select the Tormented Echo variant. Note that to summon the Beast in the Ice, you'll need to craft a different Nightmare Dungeon sigil, which is the glacial one. All items dropped from Tormented Echoes will be item level 925, and defeating your first Tormented Echo drops 1 Resplendent Spark as a first-time reward. So we only get 1 of those from killing these bosses, and that's what you can use to craft an Uber Unique. Alright, so here's the new bit. Fight with the Iron Wolves. Seek out the battle-hardened and stalwart Suda the Anvil, a stoic field commander of the Iron Wolves. The Iron Wolves are a band of noble mercenaries in the south, seeking to protect the common people of Sanctuary and hold themselves to a higher code of honor than other mercenary companies of similar metal. Mysteriously, members of their ranks have been dying under suspicious circumstances. Seek out the source of the slaughter to earn the Iron Wolves' favor. Meet Suda in Kegistan to start your journey to uncover this deadly plot. Working with the Iron Wolves will earn you several tempering manuals, which are key to unlocking the potential of your items in Season 4, Loot Reborn. So I'm curious, are these going to be the manuals that we've already seen on the PTR, or do these ones have season-specific ones that are going to be new to us? That remains to be seen. Any Iron Wolf events that occur in Helltide will persist past the end of Season 4, Loot Reborn. Interesting. Okay, so that sounds like that's also a permanent change. So the seasonal theme really isn't much this season, other than the changes we've already seen. We will have a little bit of a story here, and they will give us these tempering manuals, but that's pretty much it. So this season, while we don't have any major new mechanic, we don't have a vault this season. We don't have malignant tunnels. We have the revamped Helltide, which is the major world event, but then we get the whole, itemization rework. We get greater affixes, we get tempering, we get masterworking, we get the new Codex of Power, we get all that on top of the Helltide, on top of the pit, on top of the level 200 uber bosses. So while it's not really a new theme per se, there is still a lot that's going to feel fresh and new, and I'm really excited for it.